Hey, it's NPR's Book of the Day. I'm Andrew Limbong. The federal government is going through a lot of changes right now. But the changes aren't the same across the board. Under President Trump, some agencies have been cut, some have been expanded, and some are in the middle of redefining their mission. Today, we've got two books that tell the story of two arms of the federal government feeling vastly different pressures. In a bit, we'll hear about what the CIA looks like today. But first, one of the agencies that has been vastly expanded under the president is Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE. Irene Vega is a scholar who's got a new book out titled Bordering on Indifference, Immigration Agents Negotiating Race and Morality. For the book, she interviewed nearly 100 ICE agents to get a deeper understanding as to why they do what they do. And Vega talks to NPR's Martínez about the numerous ICE agents she spoke with who are Latino and were really struggling with balancing their jobs and their background. That's ahead.
This message comes from Ollie. Ollie delivers clean, fresh nutrition for your dog with 5 high-protein flavors, like fresh turkey with blueberries. Made in U.S. kitchens with human-grade ingredients, Ollie's food contains no fillers or preservatives. Ollie creates a customized plan based on your dog's weight, activity, and health needs. Plans also come with routine health screenings using digital photos of your pup. Head to ollie.com/wolf and use code WOLF to get 60% off your welcome kit when you subscribe today. This message comes from DSW. Where'd you get those shoes? Easy, they're from DSW, because DSW has the exact right shoes for whatever you're into right now. You know, like the sneakers that make office hours feel like happy hour, the boots that turn grocery aisles into runways, and all the styles that show off the many sides of you. From daydreamer to multitasker and everything in between, because you do it all in really great shoes. Find a shoe for every you at your DSW store or dsw.com.
President Trump's tax cut and policy bill allocates about $170 billion to border and immigration enforcement. The expanded budget provides U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, with the funding to hire 10,000 new agents, in addition to the estimated 20,000 law enforcement and support personnel across 400 offices. Our next guest is a scholar on this workforce. Irene Vega is an assistant professor of sociology at the University of California, Irvine, and the author of Bordering on Indifference, Immigration Agents Negotiating Race and Morality. So let's start off with just your background, where you're from, and how you've grown up has helped influence your research on this book.
I am from a really small border town right on the U.S.-Mexico border in the American Southwest. And I grew up observing the immigration state.
Now, over the course of a couple of years, you interviewed 90 immigration enforcement agents. A lot of your research centered on what you call, quote, the moral economy of immigration control. So what does that mean, and why does that matter?
So the moral economy of immigration control, we can think about it very simply as the normative ideas that permeate agents' work. Ideas about what is right, what is wrong, what is problematic, and what is just common sense. I want to understand how those ideas that they take for granted as normal, as the way things are and should be, how that both shapes their willingness to do the job, their strategies that they employ to do the job, and then ultimately how that protects the status quo in the U.S. immigration system.
How many of the immigration agents that you spoke to felt maybe conflicted about their work, or maybe felt that maybe because of maybe mixed moral feelings that they have over this, that they can't do this job long term?
Most of the agents that I spoke to felt pride in their work, and they felt especially prideful about their job when they saw themselves getting the quote-unquote bad guys. They felt really good about their work when they could go out there and arrest people who had criminal records, who they perceived were bad for the country. The issue, as I argue in the book, is that those archetypal bad guys, if you will, were really hard to come by in their job, because What immigration agents do most of the time, especially along the US-Mexico border and in these border towns that I studied, is they process people who exist on various parts of this spectrum of illegality, that they don't necessarily have a criminal record at all. I will say there was one ICE officer who was on the verge of retirement when I interviewed him. He expressed to me how grateful he was to be on the way out as the first Trump administration was on the way in, because he was very concerned that what was the product of that would be mass deportations, a focus not on those criminal aliens, those bad guys that he perceived to be the most legitimate targets of their work, but a focus on undocumented people writ large. And I think that's what we're seeing today.
How many of them feel like no one gets it? No one understands what they do, how they do it, why they do what they do.
I dedicate an entire chapter to what I call stigma management strategies. Agents have ways to deal with those external critiques, to dissipate the stigma that they feel from the public, to then, again, do their job in an unproblematic way.
When it comes to Latinos, is it unfair to center a Latino officer's family history against the politics of their work, of what they do?
I sought to understand how agents of different backgrounds understood and carried out their job. Most of those agents were Latinos who had grown up along the US-Mexico border, who were immigrants themselves or children of immigrants, sometimes grandchildren of immigrants. So for those agents, this question was almost unescapable. I actually didn't have to bring it up myself in my interviews. They, in telling me how they got into the job, in telling me their experience on the job, would bring up this tension between their professional background and their either immigrant history or their racial ethnic background. And this is because this is an unescapable part of their experience, given the racialized character of the U.S. immigration system.
The recent tax and spending law will fund a significant expansion of this agency. The government has said it's hoping to hire about 10,000 new agents. So what are your thoughts on that?
The first thing I think about are those high school students that are going to experience a set of recruitment tools by the U.S. federal government as they seek to grow the workforce. But I also think about the other side, the paradox of that there are some people along the U.S.-Mexico border that are going to be welcoming this infusion as the possibility of better jobs and upward mobility.
Irene Vega is the author of Bordering on Indifference, Immigration Agents Negotiating Race and Morality. Irene, thank you.
Thank you, A.
This message comes from Amazon One Medical. Ever gotten sick on vacation? Amazon One Medical has 24/7 virtual care, so you can get help no matter where you are. It's kind of like the room service of medical care. Thanks to Amazon, healthcare just got less painful.
This message comes from Capital One Commercial Bank. Your business requires commercial banking solutions that prioritize your long-term success. With Capital One, get a full suite of financial products and services tailored to meet your needs today and goals for tomorrow. Learn more at CapitalOne.com/commercial. Member FDIC.
Tim Weiner's new book is titled The Mission, the CIA in the 21st Century. It's a deeply reported and sourced look at what it's like working at the CIA right now under President Trump. And Weiner tells NPR's Mary Louise Kelly that most people are just trying to keep their heads down, which, as Weiner says, isn't ideal for an intelligence agency.
Gone are the days when a fake passport and a cover story are all a spy needs to get by. So what's an ambitious intelligence officer to do in this era of cameras everywhere, of retina scanners, of AI? Well, Tim Weiner takes on the question of how the CIA is trying to reimagine the art of espionage in his new book. It's titled The Mission, the CIA in the 21st Century. Tim Weiner, hey there.
Hello, Mary Louise.
How much harder is it these days for a spy to spy?
It's a challenge unlike any in the history of espionage, which goes back to when Sun Tzu wrote The Art of War 26 centuries ago.
Yeah.
And Sun Tzu said, know your enemy. Well, the problem is your enemy knows you. An example of the challenges facing the CIA. 12 years ago, Chinese spies and hackers broke into the Federal Office of Personnel Management and stole passport files, fingerprint files, security clearance forms of 22 million people who work for the federal government, including people who work for the CIA. They crunched this data with retinal scans that they stole from international airports. And if you are a CIA officer arriving undercover in Dar es Salaam or Beijing or any other of a number of foreign capitals, you are likely as not to be confronted by a Chinese officer saying, hey, Joe, I know who you are.
We know exactly who you are. Yeah. I mean, I suppose the flip side is that the U.S. can do the same thing. It's harder for America's rivals and adversaries, harder for a Chinese spy to land in, say, New York or Minneapolis and not be immediately spotted and tracked.
Yeah, the problem there is that the Chinese Ministry of State Security is about 20 times bigger than the CIA. And the Chinese have ambitions to project their surveillance state into the United States. I mean, the difference between the Russian and the Chinese services is that the Chinese want to know us and the Russians just want to screw us.
Is it mutual?
Well, screw thy enemy is definitely part of the equation here. Ever since the CIA was founded in 1947, it has tried to oppose, blunt, undermine, subvert Russian imperialism in the world. That took kind of a back seat after the end of the Cold War. CIA directors and their immediate underlings told the CIA's officers to be nice to the Russians, to work with them on fields of mutual interest like counterterrorism. And one senior CIA officer told me that this was like a guy who goes out and buys a baboon, and the baboon rips his face off, and then he goes out and buys another baboon. The Russians were not interested in cooperation. They shook your hand with one hand and picked your pocket with the next.
So let me bring us to this moment. We are in 2025, and the CIA again serves a commander-in-chief, a president, who has openly questioned the agency's leaders and their work. When you ask current CIA officers about that, what do you hear?
The gut-wrenching, nauseating feeling that the President of the United States has gone over to the other side and joined the axis of authoritarianism is hard for an outsider to understand. The feeling that went through the high levels of the CIA when Trump ordered the United States to vote with Russia, North Korea, and Iran at the United Nations against a resolution condemning the Russian occupation of Ukraine.
Did CIA staffers raise that specifically with you, that incident?
Oh, yeah.
What were they saying?
You know, there's an ideological purge that Trump has ordered at CIA. And the current director, John Ratcliffe, who is a MAGA acolyte, has told top officers and analysts with 20 or 30 years experience to head for the exits, find a new line of work. He dismissed 2 years' worth of new hires, everybody the CIA had hired in 2023 and 24. And ideology is the enemy of intelligence.
I want to separate out how much of what you just said is your view based on reporting, but your view, and how much is what you are hearing from people who are working at the agency now.
I have to say that people are trying to keep their heads down lest they get chopped off, which is not a good posture for the world's most famous intelligence service.
A question on your sources. I covered the intelligence beat for years. I used plenty of anonymous sources to do so, and that was to allow people to speak more freely and to protect people who were risking their jobs to talk to me. You used no anonymous sources. Are there stories you wish you could tell in this book, and you couldn't get your source to go on the record?
I wish I knew more about how the CIA tried to rebuild its network of recruited foreign agents in China after dozens of them were rolled up, arrested, tortured, imprisoned, and killed back about 14 years ago. And I wish I knew more about what is going on right now. It is a very dangerous thing to have an intelligence service in the hands of an autocrat. And I wish I knew if there is, in fact, resistance at the CIA to Trump's foreign policies. The CIA is an instrument of American foreign policy. With the rarest exceptions, it does what the president tells it to do. And Trump has stated, openly from his inauguration, his desire to seize Greenland, to take possession of the Panama Canal. The CIA does not have a history of saying no to presidents. I'd like to know if there's a resistance inside Langley.
You and me both. To end by looping back to where we began and the questions of how technology has made it so much more challenging than it ever was to try to spy, to try to collect human intelligence on your adversary. You've now written a couple of histories of the CIA, this one covering the first 25 years of this 21st century. Do you think there'll be a CIA around in anything resembling a recognizable form 25 years from now?
That depends how we get through the next 3.5 years. The President of the United States is implacably hostile to the idea of intelligence. He thinks the CIA is the capital of the deep state, which it is decidedly not. There's a reason, Mary Louise, that they call spying the world's second oldest profession. It's been around since Joshua took Jericho. Spying is somehow inbred in our bones. We want to know secrets. We want to know what the other person thinks. And I cannot imagine America as a superpower without an intelligence service to warn of dangers over the horizon.
Tim Weiner. His new book is The Mission, the CIA in the 21st Century. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Louise.
That's it for this week on NPR's Book of the Day. If you want more, you can sign up for our newsletter at npr.org/newsletter/books. I'm Andrew Limbong. The podcast is produced by Chloe Weiner and edited by Megan Sullivan and Sierra Crawford. Our founding editor is Petra Mayer. The show Elements for this week were produced and edited by Destiny Adams, Adriana Gallardo, Catherine Fink, Jeanette Woods, Todd Munt, Emiko Tamagawa, Fernando Naruman, Gabe O'Connor, Katie Klein, Tinby Ermias, Elena Burnett, and Erica Ryan. Yolanda Sanguini is our executive producer. Thanks for listening.
This message comes from Schwab. At Schwab, how you invest is your choice, not theirs. That's why when it comes to managing your wealth, Schwab gives you more choices. You can invest and trade on your own. Plus, get advice and more comprehensive wealth solutions to help meet your unique needs. With award-winning service, low costs, and transparent advice, you can manage your wealth your way at Schwab. Visit schwab.com to learn more.
Support for NPR and the following message come from IXL Online. Is your child asking questions on their homework you don't feel equipped to answer? IXL Learning uses advanced algorithms to give the right help to each kid, no matter the age or personality. One subscription gets you everything. One site for all the kids in your home, pre-K to 12th grade. Make an impact on your child's learning. Get IXL now. And NPR listeners can get an exclusive 20% off IXL membership when they sign up today at IXL.com/NPR.